If monetary policy, though, is done incorrectly, you're adding sand to the engine, and your engine can fail. And there are two ways that monetary policy can go wrong. You either create too much money, or you don't create enough money. Now, this is not as easy as you might think. For a long time, people thought that the supply of money, at least, was easy to determine, and the challenge was, how could you match the supply of money against the demand for money, which was harder to measure? Well, now, with globalization, with technological change, we're not even sure how to measure the supply of money anymore, and we've never really known how to measure the demand for money. And so even if you're trying to maintain a perfect, frictionless, well-oiled engine, monetary policy has always been a challenge. And people like Milton Friedman have argued that you just have to have some sort of percentage growth rule. Just have, you assume that the demand for money is going to grow by the same every year, even though you know that's not true. It's the only safe assumption you can make. And so you let the supply of money grow by the same amount. And in theory, you're going to have a system that works better than a central bank operating with discretion. And certainly, when you look at history, and I'm not familiar with other countries as much as I am with the U.S., of course, if you look at U.S. history, when the Federal Reserve has exercised discretion, that's where they've gotten us in trouble. Now, historically, they've gotten us in trouble because they have followed quasi-Keynesian prescriptions of trying to create too much money in an effort to artificially boost the economy. But it's not even that that has to be a Keynesian approach, because I think this is where the Bush administration, with their appointees and their influence on the Federal Reserve, have gone wrong. Politicians always want the economy to look good, especially near elections. And what's an easy way of making an economy look good, or at least making it feel good? Well, one of the ways to make an economy feel good, it might be illusory, but you can make it feel good by creating more money, especially right before an election. Or if you think something is going wrong, you create a bunch of money because you're hoping to offset the net, whatever is happening negatively. And when you create a bunch of money, one of the big effects, and those of you who are from the Austrian school will understand and appreciate this, is you artificially lower interest rates. And most people in an economy like low interest rates. If you're an investor and a saver, you might not like low interest rates, but in general, politicians think that low interest rates are good because more people, more voters, presumably like low interest rates rather than high interest rates. And so whenever there's a feeling or a sense among the political class that the economy might be hitting a bump in the road, there's always pressure on the central bank to inflate the currency. Because by throwing money into the system, you create an illusion of prosperity, you create artificially low interest rates, and if you're going to die in 6 months, that's a good way to go. Because at least you think you're prosperous for the last 6 months of your life. But the problem with this kind of monetary policy is that economies don't die. They keep going. And if you wind up throwing a lot of sand in the gears of your engine so that the monetary policy isn't doing its job correctly, that's when you can get some economic destruction. In other words, shifting back to our house analogy, you're weakening the foundation of your house. And if we look at where the American economy is right now, I think we've had a series of monetary policy mistakes. It actually began back before the turn of the century when everyone was scared of this Y2K. I assume people remember that. Everyone was concerned when we turned the clock to 2000 that all these computer systems were based on just 98, 99, and somehow when we went to 2000 it was going to cause all sorts of technological havoc.